Tuesday's Express now. And would you trust the SNP with your finances, Leo?
I wouldn't trust the SNP to run across the road to get me a Mars bar. Basically, of course, they're actually delicious. People mock them, but they're delicious.
They're not. They're absolutely delicious.
So anyway, Sturgeon is desperately begging Westminster for extra money after being accused of creating a £3.5 billion black hole in Scotland's finances. So, Scotland's got a devolved parliament and they handle the finances for Scotland, but they're doing a terrible job at it. Even though under the Barnett formula, they get much more money per person than the rest of the UK. It's absolutely insane. They get 15 or 16 billion pounds a year. Probably more now.
They get £123 for £100 that they get in the rest of the UK.
So people in Scotland, there is some rationale for that because it's a sparsely populated place. So, to give the equivalent services to people, you need to spend a bit more money. But under the SNP, there's been an absolute litany. That's very funny. That's racism. But
you should have said haggises.
There's been a...
sorry.
This is microaggressions.
It is.
I am
under the SNP, there's been a pattern of corruption and opaque deals and just money being wasted. And I think the government needs to go in and audit the SNP and find out where all this money that they're getting from Westminster is going. So, Calmac ferries were £150 million over budget and 5 years late. SNP MP Natalie McGarry was convicted of embezzlement. There's a culture throughout the SNP, and I don't think it's controversial to say that. UK government needs to open the books and see where the money's going. But they won't do that because they're scared of the SNP.
Can I ask you this, Leo? Because one thing I don't understand. So this article is talking about how the government has provided £41 billion per year
largest
for 3 years, largest amount ever.
Yeah.
They've still got a £3.5 billion black hole in their finances, so they're obviously not doing that. But they're also talking about another referendum, which is going to cost a fortune. But not only that, they're hiring these very expensive lawyers to see if they can bypass Westminster to have the referendum in the first place.
Yeah.
So the SNP, how do they reconcile this?
I have no idea. And to be honest, I'm amazed the SNP are pushing so hard for a second referendum, because if the SNP had to manage their own finances, they can't even balance the books with all this extra money from Westminster. So how they'd manage to do it without the extra money, it blows my mind.
The thing is, this was all revealed in May. So they're trying to come in now and say, it's because of inflation and this and that. But the reality is they already knew that they had all these expensive spending commitments from... they knew there'd be this huge shortfall back then. So now they're trying to frame it like, you knew you had an issue.
It's quite funny sending a begging letter to Westminster and then at the same time saying, we want to leave you evil individuals.
Yeah. And if you look at every metric that the SNP are responsible for in education, health, drug deaths, all the rest of it, Scotland is doing appallingly. It used to, be one of the best countries in the world for education when I was at school.
Just quickly before we move on, but it is a one-party state. There is no potential competition for the SNP in Scotland. So how will this ever be resolved?
Yeah, I can't see it being resolved until there's a decent opposition, or until the Scottish voters wake up and realise that they're being led down. They're being led down a path to ideology, to this mirage of independence that'll fix everything. And independence would be an absolute disaster for Scotland.
You look at South Africa and you look at the ANC, and they've had control of politics for so long. But then but it takes generations for that to happen, for other parties to start coming through, and once those parties, the corruption or the whatever, becomes apparent.
Yeah, absolutely.